Ballerina is a new John Wick spinoff in which young Eve Macarro loses her ex-assassin father to a cult of assassins. After which, she gets taken in and raised by the crime family Ruska Roma that raised the infamous Baba Yaga himself. And once Eve is grown and ready for combat, she heads off to a European village full of cultist assassins to kill her father's killer. So yes, the storytelling here is very basic. What isn't so basic, however, is the action within that storytelling. Yeah, Ballerina continues the John Wick tradition of having the best combat action in Hollywood. While Mission Impossible shines in stunt sequences, this franchise shines in sequences where people shoot at each other from point-blank range. And even though a lot of that shine comes from aspects like choreography and cinematography, most of it is thanks to the writing. The action writing here is top-notch. And to be clear, yes, Ballerina has its own issues. Firstly, it does not compare to John Wick, which, as I talked about in the past, uses even more inventive writing tricks to generate the craziest combat action you'll ever see. Secondly, the name of the movie is a bit of a lie. The idea is that the hero is a ballerina, yet her being a ballerina is barely relevant at all in the story or the action. Not like how John Wick being a car enthusiast is always very relevant in the story and the action. Thirdly, the way John Wick is handled here is a major letdown. There was so much potential to show him from the opposite side, how terrifying and impossible it is to fight him. The battle between him and Eve could have been like a survival horror section, a cinematic boss battle of the ages, like seeing Batman from a robber's perspective. So much potential. But no, John Wick shows up and they practice grappling a little bit as they chat, and that's it.
Leave. Don't have to do this. Just go.
Not to mention that the budget of this new character spin-off movie was way too high, on the level of John Wick 4, and so understandably, it flopped. But weaknesses like those aside, the fact remains that Ballerina continues John Wick's hot streak of having the best combat action in the business. It's not just bang bang bang. Almost every sequence feels fresh, exciting, cool, stand out, memorable, all thanks to a few inventive writing tricks relating to the cornerstones of combat action. The methods of the combat, the dynamics of the combatants, and the locations where the combat takes place. These are Ballerina's secret to creating amazing John Wick action, and today, let's learn more about them to be able to do the same. The first key way this movie finds great action is by being inventive with the methods of the combat as well as their limitations. For example, once Eve has trained to become a worker for the Ruska Roma, she gets sent to this ice club on her first mission to protect the daughter of a businessman against hostile forces who wanna grab her and ransom her. And the sequence begins very much like John Wick's first club sequence, with Eve pulling out her sidearm, ready to bang bang bang. Except oh wait, there's a limitation.
To infiltrate past security, you would be using a modified 3D printed
rubber bullets. Problem?
Yeah, in order to get a weapon past security, Eve has to use a modified one with rubber bullets, a method of combat that turns the scene into something different. She's not firing her gun to mow down opponents as per usual, but rather using it as a sort of projectile melee weapon, the result of which is action that's quite unique.
Wait.
And you can find combat-altering limitations like this in many sequences. When Eve goes to a continental hotel in Prague to look for a member of the cult to find their home base, she runs into trouble. Turns out that the cult is looking for the guy as well because he ran off with one of their younglings, and they've put a price on his head, which leads to some other greedy assassins to storm in for the bounty, forcing Eve to fight to protect herself as well as the cult member. Except oh wait, this is a continental hotel where business is strictly forbidden, so she cannot kill anyone. Thus, she has to find other ways to deal with the attackers. After that, when Eve goes to a weapons merchant to arm up for her upcoming assault into the cult's territory, the cultists surprise her there first, leading to her being trapped in a shop looking for weapons to fight back. Except, oh wait, she has no weapon because none of the displayed guns have ammo. All she's able to find is a belt of grenades. And that's what the combat becomes about. Not just bang bang bang, but something else. It's about explosive destruction, about using grenades at close range and opening pathways at the same time. It's very different from combat you've seen before, and thanks to that, very cool. And in this manner, if you want to find fresh angles for combat, add limitations to their most obvious methods. Instead of simply having people shoot guns, is there a way to prevent that from happening in a way that leads to something else, something more unique? If the answer is yes, go for it. But if the answer is no, still, don't worry, because on top of limitations, you can also achieve the same result by using your imagination. When you're building your combat sequences, ask yourself one question. What is cool? Oh, shotguns are pretty cool, so maybe the ex-cultist has one of those at the hotel, and maybe the shotgun should throw people back like ragdolls. That's pretty memorable. Oh, tactical knives are pretty cool, so maybe Eve has to rely on one of those as she's fighting cult members in the village restaurant. That could be pretty unique. Oh, flamethrowers are pretty, you know,
Cool.
And so maybe that's what Eve uses against the waves of cultists coming together. We haven't really seen flamethrowers in close-range combat too much, so to see one could be worthy of a sequence. The point is to not over-rely on the most obvious combat methods available, but to always look for alternatives. Use limitations to find them, or if your imagination/knowledge is good enough, use that. Don't be afraid to experiment and explore. The more unique the methods of combat, the more unique and fresh and potentially cool the combat. Another key way this movie finds great action is by playing with the dynamics of the combatants. The reason Eve, for instance, stands out from John Wick as a character is because she's not an assassin like him, per se. She's more of a protector. When she's training in the Ruska Roma, that's how she trains, to protect people and escort them out of harm, which already helps her training montage stand out from most other training shooting montages. That being said, the movie does not use this idea enough. The aspect of Eve being a protector is quickly forgotten, and soon it's as if it never even existed, just like the idea of her being a ballerina. And it should have remained way more relevant to the end. In a club, Eve should have always had to keep the woman at her back to protect her during the fight. In a hotel, Eve should have been the one to protect the little girl in the escape. Use the fresh character dynamic to freshen up the action. And the fact that this character idea is forgotten does unfortunately take away from the character and ultimately makes her that much more generic. But this aside, the idea of playing with dynamics and going against expectations is very much alive in the combat. For instance, Eve's second mission on screen is to go to another club to kill a high-profile target. But since going to clubs to kill high-profile targets is a tale as old as time, the movie does something different. It flips the dynamics of that battle upside down. Instead of Eve fighting her way up to victory, she has already won. She has killed everyone inside, including the target, and now she's just making her way down to leave the area, allowing us to see the aftermath of what transpired. And so now, since Eve has already won, the sequence is more about the opposite side trying to get her. And because she's now about to drive off, what does that mean in practice? Well, how about this? When Eve gets rammed back into the scene by the opposition, that's one of my favorite moments in the movie. It's so unexpected and different that it jolts you back into the experience. The fighting in practice may be the same as always, but the way it occurs is not. To do the fighting in this less traditional way kept the action fresh and was fantastic writing. And in this manner, the movie keeps playing with dynamics. Who holds the power in combat? Who is it that participates in combat? When Eve arrives at the European village, she's confronted by one of the assassins at the restaurant. That's pretty commonplace.
Hey, I've seen this one. This is a classic. This is
What isn't so commonplace, however, is what comes after. That's right, turns out that the entire village is a community of assassins from all over the world. And now they're all coming for Eve. She runs up the stairs and there's a cook waiting to stab her. She runs down the street and the first passerby stops their car and hops out to shoot her. She stumbles to someone's front door and the family steps out to beat her up.
I'll beat the goofy out your ass.
This idea of an everyday assassin community is very unexpected and unusual. The power dynamics are so uneven and the tasks so impossible that you can't help but marvel at it. I mean, how the hell is Eve gonna pull this off when every person in every home is a threat, a hero against an entire village of contract killers? Not only is that incredibly challenging, but also incredibly unique. You're not gonna find it in any other movie, and because of that, you remember it. The point is to always keep rebalancing and playing with action dynamics to generate fresh results. If the hero has a flamethrower, then it's worth considering what would happen if the enemy had one too. Something very hot, I bet. And even more so, what if the hero's flamethrower runs out and the enemy's doesn't? How would the hero fight back then? What would that lead to? Well, probably something pretty awesome. The third key way this movie finds great action is by identifying the things offered by the locations and putting them to use. Looking at the Ice Club again, for example, its value is not limited only to the amazing visual side. It also has a function, an effect on the fight. The ground is icy and slippery, which the fighters have to take into account. There's an ice pick stuck into the wall, which Eve grabs for her own use. The place doesn't just look cool, but also offers unique things to utilize, born from what it is. And in this manner, the movie often utilizes the environment to create location-specific action that you wouldn't otherwise see. When Eve gets ambushed in the village restaurant, that place becomes central for the fight. Because thinking about it logically, what does a mountain town restaurant mean? Well, it means dining objects like forks and old-school decorations, which do come in handy. It means an endless supply of dishes, which Eve and her opponent hurl at each other as they're trying to find the gun buried underneath. And there's a freezer room and a second floor as well, which also do not go unused. The point is to consider where you are and then logically start building the action from what that place is and what's there. If possible, go to that place in real life and look around for things that you can write into the action. A lot like how Jackie Chan has always done in his action. Because if you tie the combat to whatever is offered by the location, you're by default making it that much more unique. When we tumble down into a shed by a frozen lake, what by logic would be there? Well, probably winter and ice gear, like ice skates. Okay, well, maybe that's something to use. It's not every day you see ice skates as weapons. And to be clear, this location point isn't just about weapons and terrain, it's also about playing with audience expectations. When Eve goes to gear up in the weapons store, we expect her to be safe because that's how it always is. You go in, you look at the weapons you want, and then you buy them. That's how it goes.
Bye, have a great time.
And so what if this time, it's not how it goes? What if the enemies bust in the middle of Eve looking at the weapons to try to kill her? Now, she's stuck inside the store, having to take these guys out with whatever's at her disposal in there. It's the unusual use of the location that makes this action scene stand out. We haven't seen it before because this is not how the location is supposed to be. It's kinda like seeing Batman attacked in the Batcave. It will stick to the audience's mind because that's not where Batman is supposed to be attacked. It feels like a big deal. And I, for example, still have this childhood image in my head as an adult. Altogether, don't just write whatever action in whatever location. Write the location to be the source of the action. Wherever you place your scene, think logically about what things are there and how they could be used in a cool way. Think about how the place as a whole could be used in a way that's not so common. Because even if your imagination is great enough to think of cool stuff to use, it's the location that will make it make sense. It's way more natural if the hero finds a katana in a samurai museum rather than in a random cabin. It's way more natural and powerful if the hero intentionally dives into the village's firehouse to get a fire hose rather than smashing into the nearest cabin and just happening to find one randomly.
Don't mind if I do.
Whatever combat ideas you have, location helps them feel more organic and earned. And although Ballerina may not be quite as amazing or consistent in doing that as John Wick, who still today remains the king, it still does a better job with that than most other action movies. Ballerina's action is not just bang bang bang, it's much more. And thanks to that, pretty damn awesome.
Wait.